Okay. Hi, we are going to do step 6.6, which is to extract current modified budget to the budget prep cube, SBP prep. So what it means is that there are certain line items in this budget line items. Um, uh, there are certain line items that were loaded into the ODS. Okay, that are that really comprise current modified budget. So we are selectively extracting some records from the ODS and putting in the budget prep cube, and we are calling it current modified budget. So that is what this means. The name of info source is 80pu underscore 042, which means that it is a data mart. So if you go back to our PowerPoint, we are doing this step wherein the data is here at the moment in the ODS, and the data is going to the budget prep cube. So as I'd mentioned before you load data into the budget prep cube, the cube needs to be in a load mode. Okay, loading mode. How do you verify that the cube is in load mode? Uh, we do it by going to the admin workbench, which is in transaction RSA1, and you select your info provider. Select the info provider tab there, highlight it, and then click on SBPS B prep. That's the name of the budget prep cube. Now if you go right click on it on the budget prep cube, you see it's a transactional cube, so it can be in two modes. It can be either in planning mode or loading mode. But before we load data into this cube from the backend, it has to be in the first radio button, which says transactional cube can be loaded with data, planning not allowed. That needs to be checked. Okay, only if you have that kind of setting would the info cube be amenable to loading data from BW backend. If you don't select that first radio button, then that means the cube is in planning mode, which means only data from BPS front end can get into the info cube. So that's the concept. Now let's go back to our info source. Select that. Let's go to info source tab. We are already there. You see, this is the info source we wanted. We're already there. I'm going to use the existing info package that is there, which is current modified budget for 2011 budget. I'm going to change it. Well, I'm going to be in change mode. I'm not changing it, but you see a sample is created for you so that you can copy. In future, you don't really have to create an info package from scratch, but you can copy an existing info package and just modify the year. So we are here. In this case, we are in 2011 current modified budget for 2011 budget. 2011 budget uses 2010 data. Okay, so the fiscal year is 2010. Make sure that you have settings exactly like this. You have FM area DCNC fiscal year variant Z1. You have your functional area selected from 1 zillion to 9 zillion, and your funded program is not relevant, and your fiscal year is 2010. Okay, version is 00. Okay, so that's the selection we have. The processing tab, everything is default, and data target second, select the second radio button, and check the second checkbox, which is for the budget prep cube. In update, this is a full update, so make sure you check that, and then go to the schedule. Now another thing to bear in mind is every time we are loading data into an info cube doesn't do a good job at reconciling the changes. If there are any changes to data in the ECC system, the info cube doesn't have the mechanism or the ability to update the changed data. So if the data has changed, let's say we are loading current modified budget for 2010, and if the data is already there in the info cube, if the data has changed, we should drop that existing request which is there in the info cube before loading the data again. That means the info cube cannot really overwrite a data. You need to drop a request and then reload it. That's the only way the info cube is flush with the latest and greatest set of data. So before I do this, before I load current modified budget for 2011 um, for 2011 budget with 2010 data, I would want you to just go to RSA1 and make sure that you don't have any existing request in there. But if you're not able to, visually inspect it, the system is going to prompt you. So let's do one thing. Let's continue with the info package. We are in the schedule tab of the info package. Now if this selection is already there in the info cube, the system is going to prompt you. It's going to alert you that a same selection exists in the info cube. And if that selection exists, it would ask you, do you want me to load the same selection again? Now remember, if the same selection is loaded in the info cube, if you load it again, the info cube is going to double count it. So if you're trying to load into an info cube, if you get a let's kind of back out here from the screen. Let's go to the I did not change anything in the info package. I wonder why it was trying to ask me to save. So let's click on start. You see here, this is what I was telling you. The system, it says that data was last loaded for this selection on 6/30/2011 at 13:57 with info package current modified budget 2011 budget prep. This data is already available in the info cube SBPSB prep. Load schedule data again. So that means, if you click on yes, that means you're double counting the data. So what we need to do before we load data into an info cube for the same selection is to drop the existing request. So what I'm going to do is, in another session, I'm going to go to the SBPSB prep cube, right click on it, click on manage. I'm going to look for current modified budget 2011. There you go. I could find this had been loaded earlier on 30th of June. So I'm going to drop this request. That request needs to be dropped. Only then I can load data into the info cube for the same selection. If I disregard that message, and if I had loaded without dropping the request, if I had loaded the data, then the info cube is going to double count the numbers. So the current modified budget would not be right. So which is why we have removed. I deleted that request. I selected the request and I click on delete. Okay, so that has taken care of it. Now I go back to my scheduler and I'm going to click on start again, and this time around I should not get the pop-up because I have removed the existing request that was there. There you see, I didn't get a pop-up. Okay, so it's bringing in data records for current modified budget, and it's going to the budget prep cube. Okay, now once the data is in there, the budget prep cube, you can verify from the planning layouts in BPS whether the data has got loaded correctly, and I think you can compare. You may have some existing BEX reports to verify that the data in the info cube tallies or jives with the data in the ECC system. Okay, we're pretty much done with the step. In fact, we're done with all the extraction process that is required for budget prep system. Okay, we're done with PCP extraction, we're done with commitment line items, FI line items, budget totals record, and budget line items. The other ones which you see here are not relevant for BPS. We don't really have them activated in the system as yet. So we are done with this. We are done with all the transactional data extraction. Master data extraction is pretty much the same as before. You've been through the process. There is also a process chain. So I'm going to stop this recording and then resume later. Oops. Okay, thank you so much.